I just think it's important in life just to call it like you see it. Nobody has a perfect view of truth, but there is a thing called truth out there. And it has become so elastic in the world of politics of late that it's incredibly disturbing. And I think offsetting for a lot of regular folks out there who are going about their lives and hoping that the political process is indeed watching out for them. And so you take the example of Jim Jordan. I mean, this is a group who, the Freedom Caucus, of which I was a part, initially was very much opposed to Trump, but then they completely, with the exception of Justin Amash, who's now left Congress as well, completely flipped and became absolutely subservient to him. And that's not a little bit of a rotation on an issue based on new information or based on, input from voters. It is just raw, crass pandering.
When then Congresswoman, now Secretary Deb Haaland, and I got elected in 2018, I think that there was this almost like a collective sense of joy that so many people across the country felt, because, Native women have been certainly amazing leaders for so long. And to know that it was 2018 and we hadn't seen a Native woman in the US Congress before, to get the chance to be part of that was, it was pretty surreal, actually. And I'm just so fortunate and glad to have had the chance to be able to do this.
One book I just finished was not about politics. It was about the history of the polio epidemic from beginning to end. Came out in 2006, actually won a Pulitzer Prize. And as a polio victim myself, I have always had a kind of special interest in it. And I thought with the pandemic going on, there were some lessons there, particularly with regard to vaccines. And one of the things we've been preaching lately is get vaccinated. And of course, one of the big differences between the situation we find ourselves in now and polio is it took 70 years to come up with 2 effective vaccines for polio. Our marvelous country and our marvelous pharmaceutical industry came up with 3 effective vaccines in less than 1 year to give us an opportunity to get past the pandemic.
Trent Lott would always joke his job was to keep the trains moving on time. In other words, that the legislation would move and we'd quit at dinner time and go home and have dinner with our spouse and family. That was the way he saw the leadership. Now he took an active role, worked within the caucus, but I think he was less likely to push like the Republican leader is today, and maybe the Democratic leader is today. I think it's overblown, the power. It shouldn't be the power that it seems to possess today. The leadership role shouldn't have that power. I look at it this way, that Mitch McConnell got 2 votes from Kentuckians, his own, I suspect, and I assume that the other senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, voted for him for leader. And same thing with Chuck Schumer. People from back home don't send somebody to Washington to be the leader of a caucus. And the leadership should be one of coordinating and making sure that things happen. But it shouldn't be where you had, and I'm saying this straightforward, where you had Mitch McConnell say at the beginning of Obama's term that his goal was to prevent and make sure he didn't get a second term. Now, was he speaking on behalf of the caucus? Because he's the caucus leader. I don't think he spoke for every Republican member of that caucus any more than I would want the Democrat to say that about a Republican. I would have objected if Tom Daschle had said that his goal as leader of the Democrats at the time was to make sure that George W. Bush didn't get a second term. In my opinion, it's just wrong that the leadership has so much power today that it can dictate as opposed to lead and explain. And now maybe some of your colleagues, and you may have a different opinion of that. I'm looking at it from the outside, having seen this sort of develop to the point where it is today.